Chioma, it's good to be back and it's good to have you on today's episode of our book review. We are still studying the 7 habits of highly effective people, and today we shall be dealing with habit 5. So today we shall be studying habit 5, which is seek to understand and then to be understood. So stay tuned as we learn a lot of things that will help us to further relate with people and become more effective. If this is your first time here, kindly go back to the previous videos that we had posted earlier to, catch up with us so that none of what we're talking about on this episode sounds strange. Trust me, it's going to be a time, spent well. Yes, so let's get right into habit 5. So here are some of the things I wrote down as I was, studying this habit 5. Said the art of listening and reasoning plays a big part in understanding the other person's point of view. We all know, that it is better off. We don't all know, but then I think I should bring to us that it is better off to listen more in a conversation than to speak. Because in listening, you are learning what the other person is trying to say, and you are trying to understand what the other person is trying to, point out. Some persons listen to be able to, counter. But it's more effective to listen to understand than to listen to try to create counterpoints to make the person feel like what he or she is saying is not worth listening to. Another point is seek to deeply understand the problem first before offering a solution. That also has to do with listening. If you don't listen, how would you understand? It is in deep listening that you can actually understand what the problem is and try to offer a solution. If you don't listen to me and you want me to take the solution you're offering, how am I certain that you are prescribing right for me, because you never listen to me. So the first step to solving a problem, especially when it's a conflict or an issue that has to do with different points of views or opinions, the first step is to listen first. So I said, I think that listening is more effective in a conversation than actually speaking. Because take for instance, you walk up to me and then you are complaining about how someone has been mean to you and all of that, and this conversation from start to when you finish is like 25 minutes, and I was patiently listening to you, looking you in the eyes, so I was actually active in the listening. And then at the end of the day, you would feel relieved that someone listened to me. I may spend 3 minutes to give you an advice on how to resolve the issue, and trust me, there's a 90% chance that you take it because I already sowed the seed of listening to you, so it germinated influence. So there is a 90% chance that what I said to you, you would adhere to, because you feel like I am talking to you from a point of understanding understanding the problem from your point of view. So it is the better way to have an influence on people is actually to hear them out. When you hear people out, they will hear you out. There's someone I respect so much who said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's actually true for everybody. Kids, adults, and everybody. If you listen to people, they will in turn listen to you. Another thing I wrote here is to interact effectively with anyone, you must understand them first. Be it your wife, your child, your colleague, etc. In habit 4, we said that a parent said that the best way to love all your kids equally is to love them differently. People are different, so you must understand the different ways to interact with people. You must understand who they are and interact with them from a point of who they are. That is how you can actually love them equally. That's how you can be equally effective in all of their lives. That's how you can have influence over them. I always like for us to read from the book, so please bear with me as always. So unless you are influenced by my uniqueness, I'm not going to be influenced by your advice. So if you want to be really effective in the habit of interpersonal communication, you cannot do it without technique. You cannot do it with technique alone. You have to build the skills of empathic listening on a base of character that inspires openness and trust. And you have to build the emotional bank account that creates a commerce between hearts, a business, a connection between hearts. So, listening, I have to feel that you are listening to me to listen to you, because otherwise I cannot listen to you, because you weren't listening to me in the first place. So another paragraph here says, when I say empathic listening, I am not referring to the techniques of active listening or reflective listening, which basically involve mimicking what another person says. Like someone is talking and like, I see, those kind of things. It's not really, said that kind of listening is skill based. You can rehearse those things and make it look like you're actually in the conversation when you are not. Said that kind of listening is skill-based, truncated from character and relationships, and often insults those listened to in such a way. It is also essentially autobiographical. So if you practice those techniques, you may not project your autobiography in the actual interaction, but your motive in listening is autobiographical. You listen with reflective skills, but you listen with the intent to reply, to control, to manipulate. So you're listening like, you're not really involved in it. Your heart is not there. You're just gathering your bullets to respond to what the person is saying. When you seek to understand, you're not in a hurry to respond. You just want to allow the person to air until they are exhausted, until the wells of complaint has been emptied, until the wells of concerns and problems have been emptied, until they feel like they have emptied up. So sometimes it's even okay to say, are you okay? Can I speak now? Take their permission to even, say something. I mean, when someone does that to me, I really feel good. I feel like you've been paying attention the whole while, and now you have something important you have to say, and I think it's now my turn to listen because you had listened to me. Empathic listening is so powerful because it gives you accurate data to work with. Now, before you speak, you were listening actively. Instead of projecting your own autobiography, this is how I solved the problem when it was my turn, I think you should also buy the blah, 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 use my technique and all that. And assuming thoughts, feelings, motives, and interpretation, you are dealing with the reality inside another person's head and heart. You're listening to understand. You're focused on receiving the deep communication of another human soul. In addition, empathic listening is the key to making deposits in emotional bank accounts, because nothing you do is a deposit unless the other person perceives it as such. You can work your fingers to the bone to make a deposit, only to have it turned into a withdrawal when a person regards your effort as manipulative, self-serving, intimidating, or condescending because you don't understand what really matters to him. Empathic listening is, in and of itself, a tremendous deposit in the emotional bank account. It's deeply therapeutic and healing because it gives a person psychological air. So it is therapeutic and it is healing, psychological healing, because it gives them the ability to air their views, air their mind, air their burden, air their pains, air everything. When you air, you are refreshed. Yes, so you want to give people, the sense of, or the opportunity to air when they are around you, so that they feel like you heard them. So the author gave us a story about a real estate agent who has been on a deal to sell a particular house for like 6 months. So this deal has been running, and then all of a sudden a new real estate agent was introduced, and it seemed as if he was going to lose the deal. Prior to this day, that the meeting was set, he had the opportunity to learn about, try to seek to understand, and then be understood. So he decided to, allow the clients to tell them what their concerns are as to why they are considering not taking the house that he has offered them. So in so doing, the client was able to, he listened, and the client saw that he was actually attentive. He listened to them, and it was just the husband with him at the time, because the man was married. So he listened to him, air his concerns, air his views, and he said to him, okay, you make that choice if what the choice is, what is best for you. And the man got up, got his wife on the phone, spoke to him, and then came back to him and said, you have the deal. So he didn't have to do anything special, but just listen. And the client saw this deposit in this business relationship and went ahead to give him the deal. So we see why listening to people is important. That is the only way, we have said more than once in this episode, that is the only way you can have an influence over them. Seeking first to understand, diagnosing before you prescribe is hard. It is so much easier in the short run to hand someone a pair of glasses that have fit you so well this many years. But in the long run, it severely depletes both production and production capability. You can't achieve maximum interdependent production from an inaccurate understanding of where other people are coming from. It's very important that you understand people. That's the only way you can interact with them and bring out the best of them as well as the best in you, as you guys achieve together. Another part of the book here said, if I'm trying to communicate with my son, can he feel free to open himself up to me when I evaluate everything he says before he really explains it? Am I giving him psychological air? Some parents don't even want their kids to speak, and they're already, I know what you're saying, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. But some persons even want you to calm down and hear all of the story before you can begin to offer them solutions. Said, how does he feel when I probe? Probing is playing 20 questions. It is autobiographical. It controls and it invades. It's also logical. And the language of logic is different from the language of sentiment and emotions. You can play 20 questions all day and not find out what's important to someone. So 20 questions is like, always asking, so what happened after this? What happened after this? What happened after this? You did not allow the person to explain. The person is like, I'm tired, please I'm done, don't worry, it's fine, I can handle it. Let's talk about something else. You get. So constant probing is one of the main reasons parents do not get close to their children. So he gave an illustration. How's it going, son? Fine. Well, what's been really happening lately? Nothing. So what's exciting in school? Not much. And what are your plans for the weekend? I don't know. You don't allow for someone to explain, themselves. You just ask the first question, you're jumping onto the next, They can't even breathe. So if you want to get things out of people, you must, first of all, listen to them. Hear what they are trying to say. Don't rush conversations. We talked about this, I think, in habit 2 or so, that with people, you don't think efficiency, you think effectiveness. Sometimes a conversation you predicted may last 20 minutes will take you 2 hours because the issue became more sensitive than you had anticipated. So some parents may even wonder why the friends to their children have influence over their kids more than they do. Says you can't get him off the phone talking with his friends, but all he gives you is 1 and 2 word answers. Your house is a motel where he sleeps, eats and sleeps, but he never shares, never opens up. And when you think about it, honestly, why should he? If every time he does open up his soft underbelly, oh my, you elephant stomp it with autobiographical advice and I told you so's. You don't even give them the opportunity to express, and the next thing you're prescribing your kind of drug for them. Okay, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But his friends listen to them. That's why he feels like they have an influence over his or her life than you do as a parent. So it's really something that parents, not just parents, everybody should reconsider. You should listen to the people who are subject to you, who are your subordinates. Even the people above us want to be listened to. I mean, that's how they get to open up to us. So try to practice more listening than speaking, and you'd see how many persons will come under your influence. So when there's a disagreement, sometimes both parties are correct. But it will take only an effective person to subscribe to empathic listening and hear the other party out. Hearing someone out is the very first step to solving a problem. Every time, not just sometimes, when there's an issue, the reason there's an issue is because we all have different points of views. Because there wouldn't be an issue in the beginning if we agreed. But a person who thinks effectively, who thinks win-win, our habit 4, would seek first to understand what the other person is trying to say before trying to offer his or her own solution. And you will never be able to truly step inside another person's head to see the world as he sees it until you develop the pure desire, the strength of personal character, the positive emotional bank account, as well as the empathic listening skill to do it. That is when we said how to bring people under your influence. So if you cannot try to see the world from their eyes, you cannot have them, under your influence. You have to try to see as they see, think as they think, to be able to understand them. Only then can you explain things out to them and bring them to your side. You get what I'm trying to say? Another paragraph here said, what a difference real understanding can make. All the well-meaning advice in the world won't amount to a hill of beans if we're not even addressing the real problem. And we'll never get to the problem if we're so caught up in our own autobiography, trying to offer our own solutions before listening, our own paradigms, that we don't take off our glasses long enough to see the world from another person's point of view. All of these things are trying to emphasize that we must listen first to understand before we can offer our own solutions. So I penned down something. I said, having a different point of view is like viewing a problem from different sides of a table. But when you've successfully won the trust of the opposite party by listening, they could come over to your side of the table. Now, we have, an illustration I have. We have a 6 written. So I'm on this side of the table and is a 6. But on the other side of the table, the person standing there will view it as a 9. You get, because he's on the other side of the table. So his view is different. But after listening to him, and then he's come under my influence, I could successfully pull him to my side of the table so we can have the same view. But this can only happen after I have effectively listened to his side of the story. So the moment a person comes comes to your side of the table, you have a big opening to influence that person and to transform the person. So you have to work first on listening before you start trying to convince. Because after listening, you can have access to convince, influence, and transform. So it says here too, when people are really hurting and you really listen with a pure desire to understand, you'll be amazed how fast they will open up. They want to open up. Children desperately want to open up, even more to their parents than to their peers. And they will, if they feel their parents will love them unconditionally and will be faithful to them afterwards and not judge or ridicule them. If you really seek to understand without hypocrisy and without guile, there will be times when you will be literally stunned with the pure knowledge and understanding that will flow to you from another human being. It isn't even always necessary to talk in order to emphasize. In fact, sometimes words may just get in your way. That's one very important reason why technique alone will not work. That kind of understanding transcends technique. Isolated technique only gets in the way. So don't bother about making side comments or concurring comments like, oh yeah, I agree with you, yeah. Just listen. And then when the person has finished airing their views, airing their problems, airing their minds, and then you can, go ahead to profile the solutions you think can actually help the person out of whatever space they found themselves. Now, there are people who protest that empathic listening takes too much time. Oh yes, it does. It may take a little more time initially, but it saves so much time downstream. The most efficient thing you can do if you are a doctor and want to prescribe a wise treatment is to make an accurate diagnosis. You can't say, I'm in too much of a hurry. I don't have time to make a diagnosis. Just take this treatment. Oh, it won't work on that person because that person is not you. You never listened. You never diagnosed to be able to come up with a treatment. You just gave the person what you think has worked for you or what you think has worked for another person without trying to understand the peculiarity in this person's problem. So empathic listening takes time, but it doesn't take anywhere near as much time as it takes to back up and correct misunderstandings when you are already miles down the road. To redo, to live with unexpressed and unsolved problems, to deal with the results of not giving people psychological air. That's how parents destroy their relationships with their kids, and bosses destroy relationships with their employees, and subordinates with their supervisors. You don't want to waste that kind of time. A discerning, empathic listener can read what's happening down deep fast and can show such acceptance, such understanding that other people feel safe to open up layer after layer until they get to the soft inner core where the problem really lies. So you have to give people the opportunity to air when they are around you. That's how you get to find out things actually. Now, because we all have our different perceptions and different understandings. So 99% of the time when an issue arises, it is as a result of, like I mentioned earlier, different understanding, different point of views, different perspective. So if you have to be effective, you have to first of all understand that these things will arise. So you already tackle up front, be proactive about how to solve the problem. So he said, you may be scripted in the abundance mentality. I may be scripted in the scarcity mentality. You may approach problems from a highly visual, intuitive, holistic, right brain paradigm. I may be very left brain, very sequential, analytical, and verbal in my approach. So our perspectives can be vastly different, and yet we both have lived our paradigms for years. We both have lived with our paradigms for years, thinking they are facts and questioning the character or the mental competence of anyone who can see the facts. Now, with all our differences, we're trying to work together, interpersonal relationship, in a marriage, in a job, in a community, service project, to manage resources and accomplish results. So how do we do it? How do we transcend the limits of our individual perceptions so that we can deeply communicate, so that we can corporately deal with the issues and come up with win-win solutions? The answer is habit 5. It's the first step in the process of win-win. Even if and especially when the other person is not coming from that paradigm, seek first to understand. I have said, and I will keep saying, being influencing is the key to influencing other people. If you are listening to me, I feel like, oh, he's getting what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, I will listen to you because I feel like, because he heard me out, I should also do him the favor of hearing him out. So if you want to influence other people, allow them to influence you. by listening and understanding before you try to get them to listen and understand you. So sow the seed first so you can reap the fruit. So he says, and watch what happens to you. The more deeply you understand other people, the more you will appreciate them, the more reverence you will feel about them. To touch the soul of another human being is to walk on holy ground. I love this statement so much. I should seek to touch your heart, to touch your soft part, your soft spot, and not to, get you offended every time we have a conversation and all of that. To touch the soul of another human being is really to walk on holy ground. And he said sometimes, even when people don't want to open up to you about their problems, you can be empathic. You can sense their heart. You can sense the heart and you can respond. You seem down today. They may say nothing. That's all right. You've shown understanding and respect. Tomorrow, you may not ask and they will open up. So it said, don't push, be patient, be respectful. People don't have to open up verbally before you can empathize. You can empathize all the time with their behavior. You can be discerning, sensitive, and aware, and you can live outside your autobiography when that is needed. And if you are highly proactive, you can create opportunities to do preventive work. You don't have to wait until your son or daughter has a problem with school or even have your next business negotiation to seek first to understand. You can sow these seeds, in little day-to-day relationships before you will need to make withdrawals. Spend time with your children now, one-on-one. Listen to them, understand them, look at your home, at your school life, at the challenges and problems they are facing through their eyes. Build that emotional bank account. Give them air. Go out with your spouse on a regular basis. Have dinner or do something together you both enjoy. Listen to each other. Seek to understand. See life through other people's eyes. It is, I shouldn't wait until there's a problem before I can sow or I can make a deposit into your emotional bank account. So I have to do that on a daily basis. I have to seek opportunities to want to do this. That's only when I can call up on those things I have deposited when the need arises. And that's the only way I can get you to trust me and open up to me willingly without having to pressure you. Because I care about you and you can already sense it in the deepest part of your heart. It also says when you listen, you learn. Hey, this is a big one. And you also give the people who work for you and with you psychological air. You inspire loyalty that goes well beyond the 8 to 5 physical demands of your job. This is talking to, in the workspace now. If you sow these seeds, you see a colleague who's down, like, are you okay? You don't wait for the conversations to strictly be about work, because by so doing, you don't know anything happening with them. And the only way you can get them to work effectively with you is to get to know them beyond the morning to evening, the 8 to 5 working hours time. That's the only way they can, trust you, open up to you, and you can have an influence over them. So when we really deeply understand each other, we open the door to creative solution and third alternative. So what are third alternatives? I had my alternative 1, my point of view. You had alternative 2, your point of view. The third alternative is our alternative together. So we've come together, I've understood you and you've understood me. So what can we do that will benefit both of us? The win-win option now. You get, so that's the third alternative. So our differences are no longer stumbling blocks to communication and progress. Instead, they become the stepping stones to synergy. So as we come to the end of Habit 5 study, we can now see why it is important to first seek to understand, then to seek to be understood. On a natural level, humans are selfish, even with the ability to want to listen to another person. So I think people open up to people who first of all give themselves away. The way to earn love is to give love. The way to earn attention is to give attention. The way to earn a gift is to gift. You get? So learn to give empathic listening to other people. That is when you can actually get it from them. As we conclude, the author gave one of his application suggestions. He said, select a relationship in which you sense the emotional bank account is in red. So try to understand and write down the situation from the other person's point of view. In your next interaction, listen for understanding, comparing what you are hearing with what you wrote down. How valid were your assumptions? Did you really understand that individual's perspective? I have tried this before. I used to have a relationship with someone, if a lady actually, and it wasn't really a smooth relationship because she felt I never understood her. I didn't, really understand her for who she was. I felt like I was doing my best to, get us to work. And then I said, okay, hold up. Let me see where I got this all wrong. So I took out time to try to understand her and try to love her for who she was. And today we have a very smooth relationship because I understand her and she understands me. But if she was willing to give the sacrifice to understand me, I think it would have been okay. But like I said, human beings are selfish, so they want to get before they give. So I had to make the sacrifice because things were not smooth between us and it wasn't healthy for me as well as herself. So after I achieved this, everything, smoothened out and we're fine on a daily, we're fine. So I believe that this will help us to try to resolve our relationship, issues with the people around us, parents, spouses, kids, colleagues, subordinates, superiors, and all of that. It will really go a long way to give us the peace that we deserve and help us to be effective and influential in the lives of people. So thanks for staying with us as we studied Habit 5 together. I'd like to advise us to commence practice immediately because of course the results will be mind-blowing. If you like the content of this video, please like, share, and keep sharing. See you next time. Bye.